Robot is one of the scariest characters in Invincible because he doesn't start as a villain. He doesn't show up laughing like some evil genius, and he doesn't even want your money. He's calm, smart, organized, and he doesn't panic at all. He doesn't make emotional decisions every 5 seconds like half the people of his universe. And that's exactly what makes his downfall so scary. And today we're breaking down exactly what happens with Robot in the comics. And you guessed it, there will be heavy spoilers in this video, so be prepared. We first meet Robot when he's part of Teen Team alongside Adam, Eve, Rexplode, and Duplicate. And even from the beginning, he feels different from everybody else. Rex is loud, Eve is still figuring out what she wants, Mark is brand new to the superhero life, but Robot, he's already moving like he read the entire script before the episode started. He leads the team, gives orders, and analyzes every situation, and because he's so calm, everybody trusts him. He feels like that one guy in the room who actually knows what he's doing. So after Omni-Man murders the original Guardians and beat the shit out of Immortal, I mean, he goes through them like they're made of wet paper, but that's not the point of this video. But speaking of Immortal, how about you beat that subscribe button? We're so close to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you very much. So after what Omni-Man did, Cecil needs a replacement and he needs it fast. And he picks Robot to be the leader of the new Guardians. And honestly, it makes sense. Because if your entire Justice League got packed up in one single room, you probably want the smartest guy alive managing the backup plan. So naturally, Robot becomes the leader of the new Guardians, and early on, he proves why. During the Flaction invasion, the aliens come back prepared. The first time they invaded Earth, they aged rapidly because the dimension basically rejected them like a bad file format. But this time, they're wearing wristbands that protect them from aging. And Robot figures that out almost immediately. He sees the problem, finds the weak point, and the Guardians attack the wristbands, and evasion gets stopped. That's Robot at his best, efficient, the kind of hero who doesn't need to punch the hardest because he's already solved the fight before everybody else understood what was happening. Because Robot doesn't just want to save people. I mean, he starts out as a hero and wants to save everybody, but that's not the point. Because Robot is so smart and analytical, he tends to value control over everything else. I mean, control is the most valuable word in Robot's entire dictionary. Because Robot isn't actually a robot, and his philosophy will make sense in just a second. He's actually a human named Rudolph Connors, and Rudolph's real body is trapped in a tube because he has a condition where normal air burns his skin. It's weird, but the robot everybody sees is just a drone. The calm metal hero everybody trusts is actually a suffering man who spent his entire life hidden from the real world. His entire life is basically one giant prison sentence handed to him by his own body. And once you understand that, Robot starts making way more sense. And that's exactly why he connects so deeply with Monster Girl. Monster Girl looks like a child, but she's actually an adult woman whose powers make her younger every time she transforms. So she's also trapped. Her body is stealing her future, and Rodolph's body stole his life before he even got to live it. And that's why their bond matters. And for a while, this makes Robot feel human. He wants to help her, he wants to cure her, and he wants to free both of them. And this is where Robot crosses his first major line, because he doesn't just try to solve his problem, he secretly takes Rexplode's DNA, then he hires the Mauler's twin to help him create a body for himself using his co-worker's DNA. I mean, that should have raised a couple questions from the start. They copied his memories, his personality, and his consciousness into the new body, but the original Rudolph still existed. And when the clone wakes up, he kills the old Rudolph at his own request. To Robot, this was freedom. But from the outside, this was horrifying. This is a man so desperate to escape his prison, he's willing to erase the version of himself that suffered inside of it. And then because Robot is Robot, he immediately double crosses the Molar twins and gets them captured again. So not only he steals DNA from a co-worker, creates a body, kills the original self, and he betrays the people who helped him. That's not some TikTok glow up, bro. That's a villain origin story wearing a lab coat. But that doesn't even scratch the surface, because the real turning point comes much later in the Flaxen dimension. This is where the story of Robot stops in the show. Robot and Monster Girl jump through a portal to stop the Flaxens from invading Earth again, but time works differently there. What feels like a short time on Earth becomes centuries in their dimension. They get captured, imprisoned, and Monster Girl is forced into gladiator fights. Robot studies the Flaxen language, studies their society, and starts planning a rebellion. And this is where Robot changes forever. Because he stops being just a superhero. He becomes a revolutionary, and then a general. And after that, he becomes a ruler. He and Monster Girl helped lead a war that lasts hundreds of years. They overthrow the Flaxen royal family, they rebuild society, and Robot eventually becomes an emperor. Monster Girl becomes queen, and the scary part is, Robot is good at it. He doesn't ruin the world, he fixes it. He turns chaos into order and war into structure. He takes a broken civilization and builds something way better than what was before. And that experience right there completely rewires how he sees himself. Because before the Flaxen dimension, Robot believed he was smart enough to lead a team. But after all this happened, he now knows he's able to lead an entire world. I mean, at least he believes he's capable of that. And honestly, he has the evidence. He did it. He ruled an entire world. And not just for a day or two, but for centuries. He watched societies collapse and rebuild. He learned that if you have enough intelligence, enough patience, and enough force, you can shape history. So when Robot comes back to Earth, he doesn't see home anymore. He sees a broken system. He sees corrupt governments. He sees heroes making emotional decisions. He sees villains escaping over and over again. He sees disaster that nobody is prepared for. And after Dinosaurs causes massive global flooding, Robot literally builds artificial moons to fix the tides. This is how absurd this man is. Most people see a global disaster and say we need emergency aid. Robot sees a global disaster and says, give me a second, I'm going to build moons. And that's the problem. Every impossible thing he solves makes him more convinced that he should be in charge. He doesn't think he's becoming a villain, he thinks he's becoming necessary. And once a man like Robot believes he's necessary, the next step becomes extremely obvious. Remove everybody who can stop him. So Robot betrays Mark. He helps Mark hunt down Angstrom Levi in another dimension, and yes, Angstrom is still alive. But when they find him, Robot kills Angstrom, kills another version of Mark, and leaves the real Mark stranded. Then he comes back to Earth and lies. He tells everybody that Mark died. And while Mark is gone, Robot starts preparing new drones, new weapons, new systems, a whole takeover plan. Then when Mark finally returns, Robot stops hiding. He kills Cecil right in front of him. And that moment matters because Cecil was basically Earth's shadow government. But Robot killing him is symbolic. He's not just removing a man, he's replacing the entire system. Then Robot goes after Eve and cuts off her leg. Mark tries to fight back, but Robot's new drones are designed specifically to counter him. When Mark punches them, they release a pulse that messes with his equilibrium. Because of course, Robot studies Mark's body and built a weakness exploit like he was patching a video game boss. And eventually Mark realizes he can't beat him. Robot wins, he takes over the Earth. And this is where the story gets really uncomfortable. Because after all the betrayal, all the murder and the manipulation, Earth gets better. Crime drops, systems improve, and the world becomes a much safer place. Robot created peace, but it's peace without freedom. It's order built on fear. It's a utopia where everybody has to live under the smartest man in the room forever. And that's what makes Robot such a terrifying villain. He doesn't destroy the world, he fixes it. But he does it in a way that takes everybody's right to choose. And that's the question Robot forces you to sit with. If somebody makes the world better by becoming a dictator, does that make them right? And the answer is no. But the fact that you even have to think about it is what makes him such a great character. Because Robot isn't scary because he stopped caring. He's scary because he cared so much that he started confusing control with compassion. This reminds me with another dilemma that people bring up all the time. And the dilemma goes like this. If God truly exists, then why did he not make a world where evil did not? The dilemma here would be that people would not actually be free, they would not have their freedom or their own conscious will. Much like Robot did, but on a way more intense level. I'm not trying to turn this into a theological lecture right now, but it's just a cool question that you can sit with and maybe reply in the comments what you think. Getting back to the video, eventually Mark and the others fight back in the robot war. They figure out that Rex is personally controlling one of the drones. Mark identifies the real one, flies him far enough into space that he cannot communicate with the rest of his machines. And that's how you beat Robot. You isolate him from the system and you take away his network. You remove his precious control he so naturally aches for. But even then, Robot tries one last argument. He tells Mark that if he kills him, Earth loses all the progress he has made. And that is not completely wrong. So Mark finds a different punishment. He destroys Robot's entire body, but keeps his brain alive. That is really dark. Robot can still think, he can still give ideas, he can still help, but he can't control anything anymore. And that ending might be perfect. I mean, even though it's really dark, because Robot spent his entire life trying to escape a prison. First it was his body, then it was weakness, then it was chaos, and then it was everybody else's free will. And by the end, he's trapped again. Only this time, the prison isn't his condition, it's the consequences of what he became. Robot's tragedy is that he wanted freedom more than anything else, but once he got it, he used that freedom to take away everybody else's. And that's why he's one of my favorite characters in Invincible. Because his downfall doesn't come from stupidity, it comes from intelligence without humility, compassion without boundaries. He does remind me of Evil Morty, which is my favorite character from Rick and Morty, which I have a video on, so you can watch it right now if you click on Robot's face. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next upload.